how many have noticed that being a dad is different than it was 30 or 40 years ago? Anybody? No? All right. Yeah, some people have. So this is one of my favorite stand-up comics. His name is Tom Papa, and you're going to hear, just so we bring down the house lights, we're going to watch this video of just a little bit of his stand-up routine on this.
Listen, I don't care if kids play. That's cool. I'm fine with that. But now, this culture, parents are supposed to play with the kids nonstop. I don't understand. That never happened. It was kids and grown-ups. Don't you remember that being a thing? Like when we weren't all the same? Don't you remember? Right? My father wasn't some hired party clown when I was a kid. He was the father. He was the dad. That was a different deal. He was the king of his castle. He was, and that's what I thought I'd be. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have kids. I'm going to be the king of the castle. I'm going to make people and rule them.
Yeah, so how many of you grew up in a king of the household kind of a, yeah, that's what I did, me too. And it's different. It's gender roles are shifting. Our traditional understanding of parenting is different. You know, I am so blessed to have 2 kids in my life that I just love so deeply. And neither of them are mine in the traditional sense. But I'm going to show you pictures because it's Father's Day and I'm going to anyway. This is the daughter of my heart up in Dallas. This is my little Micah. Where is she? You know, we did the obligatory plop her in the blue bonnets this spring. She's 2.5, and isn't she gorgeous? Oh, yeah. And then a couple weeks ago, my partner and his son, the 15-year-old Travis, we were up in Washington, D.C. What a gorgeous kid. This is more accurate. Yeah, there it is. And you see we got photobombed by Abe Lincoln in that one. So not a traditional family, but love, love, love. And I'm so grateful to have this experience of fathering. It's really powerful for me. But gender roles have changed a lot. And I want to be real clear when I'm talking today that, because I'm going to talk about 2 things. I'm going to talk about the divine masculine and feminine. I'm going to be talking about genders of male and female, and they're different things. I need you to understand that when the one presence, the one life, the one energy source reveals its nature in creation, something happens that the one becomes 2. It's called polarity, not duality. And we'll get into the philosophy of that some other time. But this is how the two expressions of one thing. And there's the Chinese and the Taoists understand this beautifully. There's actually an image I also want to bring up right now that will show you what that, do you remember this? This is the yin and the yang. This is a beautiful expression of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about divine masculine and divine feminine energies. The yin is the receptive, the feminine, the receiving. The yang is the masculine, it's the active, the directive. And if you'll notice that within each there is a circle of the other. This represents balance. This represents balance. And what I believe is happening as our culture evolves and changes over time, we're not seeking to take power away from men. We're seeking to empower all. But there is something I have to let you know about. In the history of humanity, there's something, and many of you know this, but the word is patriarchy. Patriarchy simply means power held by men only. And this has been our cultural legacy for millennia now. Men have been running the show. And it's beginning to change. And for modern men, we sometimes don't quite know where to stand because things are changing. And so what I want to be really clear on as we're talking about this is that I believe things are changing for the good, and this is a gift to us, that feminism is not about disempowering men. It's about bringing us all into balance of the masculine and the feminine, because we all carry all of it, and we want to be in balance with that. There's a way of seeing history. Now here I want to be careful. I'm being very careful today because this is kind of tricky waters. But I'm not going to be talking about any political party or ideology right now. But I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to call it progressive and traditional. And the way I'm using these words today is the traditionalist looks to the past for the ideal, and then the progressive looks to the future. And we are a progressive faith. We actually believe in our teachings that God's wholeness is being revealed in every generation in new and more clear ways. And we're part of that evolution of faith. And we see it. Everywhere there's greater communication between faith traditions. There's greater, wars are still fought over religion, but not to the degree that they have been in the past. Patriarchy had a lot to do with this because, unfortunately, the history of men running things for all those centuries was a lot of people were oppressed. Women particularly, minorities, any other was oppressed. And what we're seeking to do now in modern times, in particular, we're not going to handle the political part. We will handle the spiritual part over here. We're seeking to bring into balance masculine and feminine so men and women can be whole and express their gifts more beautifully, more powerfully. But there's a way of understanding. I read this recently in a novel, and I just loved it. This is a 4-act play that describes this progressive and traditional view. Act 1, calm seas. Act 2, storms on the horizon. You're sailing in a boat, forgot to mention that. Act 3, all hell breaks loose. Act 4, survivors are trembling, clinging to wreckage. Yeah, right? That's the traditionalist view of what's happening, is that in the past, there was this Edenic, beautiful time when everybody knew their place and it was all great and we were all great, and then it's just been slowly falling apart. The progressive view is you take that all in reverse. Out of the chaos, things begin to come together. And yes, I believe that we're in Act 3 right now, storm. I think there's a lot of storming going on in our world at all levels of human organizations, systems. It's all storming. But what I believe we're moving to is a place of greater cooperation, greater love, and greater revelation of God's life as humanity. And that's the progressive view. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you. So as I said, the object that we're after today is not to disempower anybody. So we want more women in elected office, not to take power away from men, but just to empower us all. We need them. We need y'all. We need y'all to run for office. We do. We need that. So what is this power I keep talking about? This power, empower. We use those words a lot. Empower is a word we just use a whole lot in Unity. Well, for that, I wanted to talk about one of my great teachers, as many of you know, is Ernest Holmes. He founded another branch of New Thought from Unity called Religious Science or Science of Mind. Now it's called the Centers for Spiritual Living, a wonderful teacher and writer. And one of his favorite sayings, he would finish a lot of his speeches by saying this: "There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it." Repeat after me. There is a power for good in the universe. Greater than you are, and you can use it. And now let's make it personal. There is a power for good in the universe, greater than I am, and I can use it. That's what we're about. That what we teach in Unity is there is one life, one power, one source. We call it God, Spirit. It's known by many names, by many cultures, but we don't believe in two of anything. It's all one. That's our name, Unity. We believe it's one presence. And this presence contains both that active and the receptive. And that active part is the part of God that said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And I gave that talk a few months ago. I'm not going to give it again, but that same power is in us. And that's what we teach in our basic principles, that law of mind action that we are creating with our thoughts and with our choices all the time. We're using that same creative, and that is that masculine, that is that wonderful directive power of God. It's ours to use, to shape, to create, to direct. That's what we're here to do. We're here to reveal God as me and as you. And that means your work and your families, your bodies, your finances. These are the places where we get to open and allow something greater. Because here's what happens. And early in childhood, usually, we get some wrong ideas. They're called false beliefs. Usually going back to, some of them even before birth, truly. And then someone would argue even past lives. I'm not going to go there. That I don't have any information on that. But I do know that what I'm talking about right now is definitely true in my life. That there were things that happened in my childhood where I got a wrong idea about who I am and what life is. And this wrong idea, I had several of them, as a matter of fact. They always center around like I'm not something enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not big enough. I'm not small enough. I'm not good enough. And so these beliefs that we get formed as a young child, and our parents, they don't mean to do this. They're passing along the false beliefs that their parents installed in them, going back for generations. And what happens and then as we grow through adolescence, we find evidence for those false beliefs in our life. We see, oh, yeah, that happened because I'm not enough. And then we begin to make choices on this place of disempoweredness, that I'm not enough, so I can't do that. And our confidence suffers. And you know, the ego will try and give us this false confidence, this arrogance. That doesn't work either, because that's just more of the false belief coming in the back door. But what we do in unity is we heal those false beliefs through affirmations, affirmative prayer, through many modalities. But we begin to, that's what when you hear people here talk about, you got to do your work, that's what they mean. It's releasing our limiting ideas of who and what we are so that then we can fully embody this power of God that is ours to embody, to give it, to receive it, to be it, and to feel what life is supposed to feel like. And it's supposed to be free and joyful and powerful and loving. That's what we teach here. So there's some scriptural evidence for this. I want to, not evidence, just a corroboration from Job. This is chapter 22, verse 28. You shall also decree a thing, and it will be established for you, so light will shine on your ways. This power that's everywhere available, that's in us, it takes us going, this is so. We have to decree it. That's using that masculine energy again. It's saying, this is, I stake my claim of faith here. And then the universe responds. How do we do it? Well, there's a little scripture there I'd like to share with you too. This is from Matthew chapter 5, 7 and 8. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. So, I ask you, asking, seeking, and knocking, is that something that just we sit here and quietly in meditation and emptying our mind? Is it in the receptive state, or is it in the directive? It's directive. We do both. One is not better than the other. You remember that image of the yin-yang? They are a perfect, beautifully balanced set. And we do the quiet, receptive piece, and then we take action. Ask for what you need in this world. Ask. Look for it. Seek. You know, I work with the singles some, and I think sometimes people are looking for a partner. They think they're just going to show up in your bathroom. If that happens, call the police. That's not. You've got to be out there, open to the possibility. I'm not saying you have to do every dating site and you have to go, but you have to be willing to participate and look for it in all ways of life. And then knock. Knock. And what happens when the door doesn't open immediately? You knock. You're keeping your faith fixed on that which you know is yours. This is a directive, powerful way of using this energy. There is a power for good greater than you are, and you can use it. And Jesus told us how to do it. You ask, you seek, and you knock. Meaning that's just, you know there's a door here, and you're just going to keep your attention there. Keep it right there. Don't wander away from the door of your good. Stay there. So that's our basic teaching. About 10 years ago, I began to feel a greater call to service in my life. No longer than that, 15 years ago, really. where I realized that, and I've been in service, I've been, singing for God my whole life. I became the church piano player when I was 12 years old in the little country church I grew up in Oklahoma. But a new understanding of service came to me. And what I've always loved this Ernest Holmes quote, but I began to say it differently. What I began to say was this: there is a power for good in the universe greater than I am, and it can use me. It can use me. So when we think about this story we're telling of the revelation and evolution of humanity's story, I can be a part of the healing. I can be a part of the transformation. I can be a part of this growth. I can be a part of it. And I don't have to figure it all out, because there is a power greater than me. A power greater than me that is living me, that knows exactly how to use my gifts, my talents, even my weaknesses and my shortcomings and my failures. It's amazing. God uses all of it for His glory. And this is what we're about. We are here to transform our own lives so that then we may help others transform their own, and we may collectively transform life on this planet. And it's happening. It is happening. And we invite you to participate. Sometimes life throws us something that what was the thing Mark Nepo, who's a wonderful writer we heard this week, he said, we ask for what we want, but we take what we get. There are times in life that our prayers are not answered in the way we thought they would be. Everything is a gift, but some are wrapped in sandpaper. I heard Lisa Nichols say that. Azim Khamisa is an amazing soul, an amazing teacher. And we have a video, so just a short little 2-minute video from NBC News I'd like you all to watch now.
Time now for our Friday Making a Difference report, and the story of a man whose capacity for forgiveness is astonishing. He suffered the worst loss a parent can ever face, and yet he decided to turn his grief into something positive for himself and a troubled young man. Here's NBC's John Larson.
A documentary began the story like this.
14-year-old Tony Hicks shot and killed 20-year-old Tariq Khamisa.
A 14-year-old murders a promising young college student for the cost of a pizza and becomes the youngest child in California history charged as an adult with murder and gets life in prison.
It was like a nuclear bomb going off in my heart.
Azim Khamisa, the father of the victim, buried his only son Tariq according to their Muslim custom. He climbed down into the muddy grave. It had been raining, and they lowered his son's body wrapped in a white cloth down into his open arms.
Yeah, I didn't want to live there alone. I stayed there a long time. When something bad happens, you can stop that bad from happening to other people.
But when he finally came up, he did something remarkable.
It is wrong to lie, to cheat.
First, he forgave the family of the killer.
It was a defining moment in my life.
Only through that forgiveness,
which in turn helped Azim start the Tariq Khamisa Foundation, speaking together to more than 1 million children about the real pain of violence.
And sometimes it scars the soul forever.
Then, Azim visited Tony Hicks, the killer, who had never had a father, and forgave him too.
His forgiveness wasn't something I expected.
Now Azim is lobbying to have Tony released from prison early, like he was his own son.
And when he gets out of prison, what do you hope for him?
We'll have a job for him at the foundation.
So you're going to hire him?
Absolutely.
This is the killer of your son?
Yes.
Tony says now he knows what a real father is.
I had a man forgive me for taking the life of his son.
And he will work for that father, and for many who maybe never had fathers, someday, whether he gets out early or not. John Larson, NBC News, San Diego, California.
Tony said, "Now I know what a real father is." Powerful story. I know Azim Khamisa. I've had the chance to listen to him speak many times, and I've had the chance to work with him, do music for his presentations a couple of times. He's an amazing soul. He truly walks his talk. He said about forgiveness, remember, he talked about being in that grave, receiving the body of his dead child. And he didn't want to leave the grave. He wanted them to just cover them both up. His grief was so profound, as you can imagine. He went through sorrow, anger, denial, all of those stages that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross taught us about so beautifully. And on the other side of it, he made a choice. See, we all are given a choice. This power for good in the universe that we can use, that can use us, we can say yes to it or no. And Azim Khamisa made a choice to say yes to God, yes to love, yes to forgiveness. He said, Tony has a safe passage through my heart, the killer of his son. He said, Tony has safe passage through my mind. Meaning, when the thoughts of the events that had occurred came to his heart after doing all of that forgiveness work and all of that grief work, he no longer relived the pain of it. He had moved into a different place of possibility. That is the power of God, available to you and to me to transform this planet. I want to acknowledge, let's just be real for a minute, not everybody had great dads. Some people grew up without a dad. And maybe it's not your father that you need to forgive, but where in your heart are you keeping this power for good unavailable to yourself and to your family and to the rest of us by holding someone in for unforgiveness? I invite you this week to give them safe passage. Let it be okay. You're not going to condone what happened, but you're going to free up the energy of love that is in you. Ernest Holmes also said this. He said, love is the self-givingness of God into creation. It is the nature, it is the way God is revealed through love. And unforgiveness will block love like nothing else will. We are here to reveal the glory of God. We are here to transform our church, our planet. As a matter of fact, Jackie, I did not plan this until this moment. Could you bring up our statement of being again? Can you find that slide? We say it we say these things every week, and sometimes we forget to read them, really take it in. It's an amazing statement we make every week here. Let's say it together. There is but one presence and one power in this church, in our lives, and in the universe. God the good, omnipotent. God the what? Good. There is a power for good in this universe greater than you are. It can use you, and you can use it. God bless you. I love you.